Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another session of Writers Beyond Borders. My guest today is Vidya Murlidhar. Vidya is an essayist and the author of two picture books, Rini and Bo, and The Adventures of Grandpa and Ray. Her essays have been widely published in magazines and websites like Mothers Always Write, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Grown and Flown, and more. She teaches creative writing to children between the age of 8 and 18 and believes writing is a great tool for children to find their voice and gain perspective about the world around them. Vidya is also a certified conscious parenting coach and conducts workshops on conscious parenting. She grew up in Mumbai, India, and now lives in North Carolina. When she's not writing, teaching, or coaching, she enjoys dancing and experimenting with healthy foods in her kitchen. Welcome, Vidya, and thank you for making the time to join us today. I'm going to
Thank you
have
so much, Surbi, for this opportunity. Thanks a lot. And thank you, Omar, for doing this, for hosting us. And it's a pleasure to be here. Apart from everything that Surbi said, I think another thing I really love to do is connecting with people. So I'm very happy to be here this morning and sharing my journey with all of you. And I do hope that you will learn something from it. And if not learn, at least take something that will help you in your own writing journey, publishing journey. And I'm open to any questions that you guys have. I have the presentation in two parts actually, because I'm really not sure which part, what you would like to know. The first part is about traditional publishing versus self publishing. And the second part will go in depth into self publishing if you guys are interested. But in between, I can always take questions. Um, so, feel free to type your questions in the chat. And that it would be my pleasure to help you guys with whatever queries you have. And if you're stuck anywhere in your writing journey, if I can help, I'd be happy to do that. Um, so a little bit about my own journey. I think always been a writer. I wrote my first poem at the age of 6. I still remember it was a poem about stars, and it was published in my school magazine, and that's how my writing journey began. But for the longest time, I didn't take it really too seriously. It was just for me to express how I felt. If something, affected me very deeply, I would write about it. Sometimes share it, sometimes not, but it was mostly a cocooned activity. And I continued writing off and on, mostly journaling until the age of 40, when I suddenly remembered or suddenly realized actually that I haven't done much apart from wifing, mothering, in-lawing, and all of those things. And I thought I needed to do something for myself. And I just had this tiny little voice that said that you need to start a blog. And I did that on my 40th birthday. I started a blog. It was just on a whim, just listening to that voice. And once I started sharing my writing with people, I really got good feedback, and I could engage. And I realized that a lot of the things that I had to say is also things that other hearts have experienced or are experiencing. And, it was a very beautiful feeling to be able to share what I thought, or the way I perceived life, and all the life lessons that I was learning with the people around me. And the writing just took off from there. I never really thought I would be a children's book author, actually, never. But when I started writing, I also joined a writing group in the library that gave feedback. And in one of the groups, the poem that I read out, they said it would make a really good children's book. And that's how I got the idea to 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 actually create a children's book. And um, once that happened, I also realized that the writing, for me, writing has also been extremely healing. I was a very, very anxious person until then, and the writing was a big part of keeping me grounded, of helping me understand myself, the world. And um, also, I think, it just kind of transformed me, and it was a tool I wanted to pass on to children, because I thought if it has so many benefits and it's such a simple thing to do, children should know about it, because it's such a stressful, crazy world out there. And that's how I started teaching. Um, Now I also, a big part of what I do is coaching high school kids through their college essay writing. And I absolutely love that, because it's a very reflective process, and just as writing helped me, I think the process helps them to understand themselves. And I think it's really the perfect time before they step out into the world for them to know themselves. Um, and so that's how my writing journey began. And so what happened was, I wrote this poem, and one of my friends said that she would illustrate it for me. And I said, okay. Like, she had just lost her job, and she was figuring out what to do with her life. She's a childhood friend, and she said, hey, if you don't mind, um, I really like what you write. If you want to make a book, I'd like to illustrate it for you. And she did, and I was pretty blown away with her illustrations. And I didn't know anything about the process of publishing then. So we put together the book, and that's how I started doing my research on publishing and what next. And that's what I want to share with you guys. Umar, if you could switch to the next slide, please. Yeah. So, how do you decide? I mean, I know a lot of you want to write, but how do you decide which mode of publishing is for you, whether it's traditional, whether self-publishing, or whether assisted publishing? Which one works best for you? Um, so, I'm going to give you pros and cons of all the ways of publishing right now, and then let you know why I chose self-publishing, and maybe that would help you guys to make your own decision too. Next slide, please. So with traditional publishing, what happens is, what are some of the pros and cons of traditional publishing? So we all know that with traditional publishing, it's very easy to get entry into libraries, into bookstores, into schools, all of that. The channels become much easier when you're traditionally published. You have support, you have a team for that helps you with publicity, marketing, and all of that, and also with editing. You just have to give your manuscript to them. If they accept it, um, then the rest is you've done your bit. Apart from actually promoting, the promotions you have to be a big part of, but after that your job is done once they've accepted it. And maybe they have an editor, they'll ask you to edit depending on the part, depending on what they think sells. So that is, and of course you don't have to invest any money when you traditionally published. You get royalty from them based on the sales of your books, and of course you have a much better chance for your book to reach the New York bestseller. And with children's books, actually the royalty is not too much, but even then, I think for it to reach the widespread schools and library system, traditional publishing works best. Um, some of the disadvantages, of course, are you have no control. Once the publishing house accepts your book, it is a product for them. Okay, they just want to make sure that it sells. So you have no control over the cover design, you have no control over the marketing strategy, and in most cases you need an agent before you even before the publishing house even looks at your manuscript. And it's not easy to find an agent, because the agents, I've attended a lot of children's book conferences and all of that, and agents, because it's not easy for them. They invest a lot of time into you and your book to make sure publishing houses pick them up. So they want to make sure their work style aligns with yours, that they like you. So a lot of things have to fit for you to find a right agent. And it's almost akin to finding a life partner. It's not always it's not easy to find the right agent for you, who is ready to invest that time in you. The manuscript also takes a very long time. So once you find an agent and the agent sends it to publishing houses, it could be a few months to years. And also once the publishing house picks it up, it takes 2 years for it to hit the bookshelves in libraries and bookstores. So it's a very long process. Not everybody wants to wait that long. Um, and not everybody wants their story or their theme to be changed according to what a publishing house tells you to do. Like not everybody feels that their story has to be, altered. So that's about traditional publishing. Umar, next slide, please. Okay, so in between traditional and self, there's something called hybrid or assisted publishing, in which you pay an amount. So they are like traditional publishing houses, except you have to pay them some money upfront. So they take money, but they do have a team. So once you have that money and they of course will vet your manuscript. They'll make sure that they like it. And once they do that, they have a team of editors, publicists, and all of that who will help you. But it is a lot of investment. It typically, at least minimum would be $6,000 to $7,000, ranging up to 10, 15. It depends on who your hybrid publishing house is. You get a greater royalty than traditional publishing, and it's less overwhelming for you, but it is a lot of investment. And especially with children's books, you don't always get that money back, because the royalty you make on every book is just like $1 or $2. It's not more than that. So you may or may not be able to make that money back. But if it is a dream of yours and you do want to see your book published and you have the money, then why not? Um, of course, the cons, it's not cheap. And again, whether it's traditional publishing or assisted publishing, with the promotions, you have to, as an author, you have to do your part in getting the book out there and making sure that it sells. It does not matter which mode of publishing you do. You have to be ready to do author events, have to be ready to talk about your book, and go to places and do stuff, engage with people for it to sell. So it really does not matter. That part you have to do as an author. With hybrid publishing, another thing that I tell people about is that there are a lot of scammers out there who don't really do anything much, but they take your money. So you have to be careful. I know in Charlotte, there are two very good publishing houses that I can vet for, Spark Publications and Warren Publishers. Um, Pretty authentic, and they have different packages, and you guys can, reach out to them and find out which one works for you. Omar, next slide, please. Okay. The third one, of course, is self-publishing. Um, and the best part about self-publishing is you have complete control over the whole process. It's not, and right from when the book goes out, when it gets published, um, if you really want to have a rainbow bunny in the book, you can. It's not, you don't have to worry about what the editor says or what the marketing team says or anything like that. It's you have complete control on the pricing of the book too, like how much you think the book should be priced, how much royalty you'll make. All of that is up to you. But of course, the cons are that it's a lot of work. You have to know, you have to do your research on editing, illustrating, and usually you will also, I mean, I worked with an illustrator. She was a friend, but not every author can illustrate their own books. So you will have to work with illustrators, you will have to find an editor, and you will have to do your research on how to upload the book, get, and also book designers. Like my illustrator was also able to put the manuscript together and design it into a book, but not every illustrator will do that or wants to do that. So you might need a book designer too. So you will end up having different people helping you out, because it's impossible for one person to do everything. um, but again, you can choose who you want to work with. You can choose how much money you want to pay. You can choose the people depending on your budget and your timeline. So the process is completely in your control. And of course, if it definitely is not as easy to get books into libraries and bookstores and all of that. There's a lot of work you will need, and I really am grateful to Surbi for helping me out with all of that, because you do need people to support you through that process. It's a lot of follow up that you have to do. You don't get responses immediately. Um, so all of that. So you have to create your own team that will help you get the book out there. It's also not as easy to get reviews for books. There are places, of course, like Kirkus Reviews that will get reviews for you, but it's easier to get reviews if you're traditionally published. So, next slide, please, Omar. And this is a resource I tell everyone who reaches out to me. She's Jane Friedman. She's an agent, and her name is Jane Friedman. She has a blog, or she has a website called janefriedman.com. And every year she uploads, like, everything I told you guys in bits and pieces. Everything is on here. So she has, this is the 2023-2024 key book path to publishing. She comes out with one every year. Like this year, see, there's also something called social publishing. And social publishing is something new that's come up, where you kind of, release if you have a chapter book, you release every chapter on a website, and readers engage with it. So that is something you can do too. Um, Yeah, so I would recommend all of you to follow her. She has newsletters too, and she has a lot of information on self-publishing and what you have to look out for, how do you go about it, and all of that. Umar, next slide, please. And if you guys are interested, I can send the website, and it is all part of the resources, which I think Umar will send out. Um, at the end of the presentation. So, what are some of the factors that will come into play while you make the decision? One is it depends a lot on the genre you write, uh, especially if you're doing something very different, that does not go well, or that is not trending right now. Most likely, the publishing houses will not pick it up. Like, there are two examples of this. I don't know if you guys have heard of Rupi Kaur. She writes poetry, and she started as an Insta poet, and her poetry is very different, short poems with little illustrations. She does not use, um, she does not use punctuation. She does not capitalize letters. So no rules, okay? And but when she started on Insta, she had a lot of following, and she published her own book. And once she had that following, for her second book, traditional publishing houses reached out to her because she did sell a lot of copies of the first book. The same with Eckhart Tolle, if you guys have heard about. I'm sure many of you have heard about him. So when he wrote his first book on you know the power of the present moment. Um, his book also he wrote. He actually, I think he had little. He kind of did the binding himself. He had books of it printed and in his car boot, and he sent it. And he would go place to place, to bookshops, selling the book. And somehow the book took off, and then a traditional publishing house picked it up. But if you're writing something very different that's not trending, then I think it's not very easy for you to get to get a traditional publisher. Also depends on the point of time where you are in life, because with traditional publishers, you do have to travel a lot. Whatever they tell you to do, basically, they ask you to be here at this event at this time. You have to do it, and it does not matter what's going on in your life. You have to show up, and it depends on your vision for the book. What your definition of success is. If for you you're happy with the book, then you know that you've just created a book, and it's more for memory, it's more for family, it's more for people who know you, and that's enough. Then maybe then self-publishing is for you. um, and of course, what you need to remember is whatever path you choose, you do need to have an author platform for you to be able to spread the message about your book. So, whether it's traditional publishing, assisted publishing, self publishing, it's good to have some kind of a platform, or create and start engaging with people before your book comes out, so that when the book comes out, you have Next slide, please, Omar. Okay, so the reason why we chose self-publishing, my illustrator and I, she's childhood friend, because one thing I didn't know, and it is something that I learned after we made the book, was that traditional publishing houses don't like books in rhyme, and they don't like manuscripts that are illustrated. You cannot give them completed manuscripts because they prefer to match an unknown author with a known illustrator, or an unknown illustrator with a known author. So they don't like manuscripts that are not complete. Sorry, that are complete. And also they shy away from rhyme because they think that with rhyme kind of restricts your storyline, uh, and it sometimes appears forced. It's not easy to follow the meter and rhyme pattern. So they shy away. It's not easy to edit, but for me, I think it worked out beautifully. Like I really did. The story came to me in rhyme, and I did try making it into, writing it as a story, but it didn't work. Like it didn't feel right to me. So self-publishing was the way to go. And I sat and thought about it. Like, would I be okay if, my book didn't sell 1 million copies? Would it kind of make a dent in my happiness quotient? And no, I don't think so. I was just happy doing what I could to promote the book, to reach out to people, to connect to people. It didn't matter if it was 2 people a day or 500. So I really think self-publishing worked out for me. Um, and I'm still promoting my book. My book, the second one came out last year. The first one came out in 2017. And I still go into school, still do author events, and I'm truly enjoying the journey. Um, so that's all I have about, the different paths of publishing. And I just want to know if there are any questions, anything that you guys want to know about any of these paths, or anything that, you're stuck with in your own journey that you need some help with.
Before we go to the questions, we'd like to take a group picture, if that's
Okay.
okay with everybody. Omar, if you can help with that, please.
Yeah. Let me stop screen share for just a second. I'm going to set up a gallery view. Let's see. All right. If you guys want to be included in the picture, feel free to turn on your cameras. This photo will be shared with everyone afterwards. We're going to give everyone a second to join in. Okay. I'm going to get this ready on the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think one thing good about Zoom is you don't have to tuck in your tummy.
There you go.
Just have to
Perfect.
smile. Yeah. So yes, guys, any questions? Thank you, Anamika, for joining. Thank you. Did you, okay.
We have a few comments in the chat. Kathleen has asked, did you get much in the way of critiques along the way?
Did you get much in the way? Yes, I did. I did, Kathleen. So the first, my first book, The Adventures of Grandpa and Ray, is a very happy book. And it really does not have conflict. It does not show character growth, uh, and all those things that traditional publishing houses want in a book. But I just felt that children also need to. It's okay to have a book that talks about enjoying little pleasures, little moments in life, and I think and I felt that it really resonated with me. What, everything that I wanted to talk about, I didn't really think it had to have character growth or anything, especially for that theme, when you're talking about being present and being, finding joy. Uh, but the interesting thing is kids love it. um Kids don't really, and kids love rhymes, so every time I've read the book out to kids, they've enjoyed it. So I think I'm so glad that I did follow my heart and go ahead with it. And with the second book, I think I did get, because I did send my second book, I did join conferences, the SEBWI conference, where you turn in your manuscript and you get feedback from an editor or an agent or another author. And that feedback really helped me. So that feedback I took, because the second book, actually, there was character growth, there was conflict, and there was all of that. um and it was also in poetry. So the feedback I got was, try writing it as a story, and see which one works better, and also to kind of lengthen the it. It stopped at where the little girl kind of understood what she had to do, but it didn't show how she transformed and how she changed after. So the feedback I got was to extend the story a little bit, and I did that. So with the second book, I did take in the feedback and follow it, most of it. But with the first one, I think I just felt right to just keep it the way it was. I didn't want to uh, add conflict or anything to that book. So, and I think critiquing helps. And as an author, it's good to listen to everybody, but you still have to, I think, go by what you feel is right for you. Um, so that But I think once the books came out, they've both been very well received, Kathleen. So I think, I'm glad I did what I did. Uh, and I'm glad I took the feedback and the critiquing that I took, and, did not take the one that I felt was not right. Um, I'm interested in knowing how to promote the book. Okay, I think I forgot that slide. Omar, the next slide is about marketing and, okay. I guess, Anamika, I think you've been doing almost all of this because I think I'm talking to a very experienced person here. But yeah, the thing is, you have to keep talking about it. You have to show up. I think for me, what really works is doing events, whether it's, a bookstore or and also, I think, doing workshops where you can talk about your book after that. So doing different kinds of events is what I think helps me. And since it's a children's book, um, going into schools. So those are the two main ways in which I sell my book. Social media, not because I guess I'm not a very social media person myself. I've been trying to show up every day, but I just show up and look at dance reels and stop myself there. So um, that's something I'm still learning. But yeah, I think to keep talking about your book. Um, Apart from that, in India, I think, Anamika, are you asking about promotions in the US for your book?
Vidya, it was a general question, and I wanted to know what you're doing because I get to see some of it, but I don't get to see most of it because you're on the other side of the world than
Other
where I
side
am.
of the world, a little camera shy also.
Yes.
So I need somebody like Surbi to tell me, come on, you need to do this now. Like put it up on
Yeah.
social media, and I do.
Yes.
But yes, Anamika, because it's a children's book, I think what
Yes.
really helps me is going into schools and
Correct.
doing workshops for children outside of school and in schools. um, that is the best way I promote my book, and that is what works for me. And of course, there are
Uh,
people who do podcasts and all of that. So
yeah. But when you interact with the students in schools, say,
mhm,
like you read out the stories, you talk to them. I remember with your first book, you had an activity book kind of a thing also.
yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong. So
yeah,
I guess, those are things that will engage your audience straight away. But
yeah.
does it help to spread the word? Do more people
So
come back to you?
Yeah, because then the schools, once you've done an event and the kids like it, like if you've been able to engage with the kids and the kids get
Yes,
something good out of it, the teachers
yes.
call you back for your next book.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's
And
wonderful.
also with the first book, unfortunately, COVID kind of, stopped that. But one
Right.
school tells the other school, they tell another school. So that's how
Yes,
it went. But most of my stuff has been through word of mouth, like one person,
yeah,
experiencing it and sharing. That works best for me. Um,
yes. That's
and
most
also as a
reliable.
person, I think with my personality too, right? Like I'm very, very comfortable in having these deep, intimate, small group
Correct.
gathering conversations. So I
Yes,
think
yes.
that, yeah, so that works for me. I
And
haven't seen, I know book fairs and all that also are very good ways, but with book fairs, again, traveling and all of that is again investment. And what I've
yes,
seen
yes.
is you go to book fairs, if you're self-published, um, I mean, I don't know whether this is, but this is one thing. In a lot of book fairs, a lot of the people who come are authors themselves promoting their own books.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
um, so you get to meet other people, you get to network, but how much you do in the way of sales is really
Hmm.
not much.
I I can
Unless it
understand that.
also, of course, depends on the book fair also. Like if you're in a
Right.
you know, book fair which is huge. Like you
Hmm.
guys did the one in Pune, then it's different
Yeah.
because people are coming. But again, so
Uh,
it's a
pe-
hit and miss, and I'm still learning which ones work and which
yeah.
ones don't. So I think just trying everything as much as you can that fits in your budget, that fits in your schedule,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then learning that way. Because it's
Yeah.
impossible to say, that you will be able to sell 200 books if you go here.
Right. Right. But I feel that this is what I have heard, that once your second book comes out, the sales of your first book goes up, because then some people may have missed, getting to know about the first book. So it kind of helps
It
to,
helps.
yeah, it
It
helps to
helps,
spread the
and
word
that's why
about
they
the
say
first book.
the more you write,
Yes.
so you never know. Like first two
Yeah.
self-published, third a traditional publisher might pick up, and then you
Yeah.
know the first two
Yes. Yes.
might do really well. So I
Yes.
mean, yeah, it does. I mean, I'm still selling my first book because of my second book. That's right.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And more
right.
strength to
Anamika.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
More strength to you. Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. I hope I was able to answer something, but and I think keeping people engaged in the events is very important, getting them to talk, getting them to share. My second book also has that, Anamika, the activities at the end of the book, and teachers really love that.
Yes, that would give them a reason to use the books, because it,
Yeah,
kind of achieves, and or you can say hits more goals in the classroom as well,
yeah. And also when
apart
I
from
read
reading.
to the kids, it's something I engage with into,
Yes.
like, yeah,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
asking
Yeah.
them questions. And kids are so, so open and ready to
Yeah.
share. So it's a whole lot of fun.
Yes, that's nice, very nice. And I'm all for promoting reading amongst children. So it's really nice to see, and waiting to lay my hands on your book.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Anambika.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me? Okay, let me,
I don't see anything in the chat.
okay. But let me ask everyone, do you guys want to know a little more about how to self-publish on Kindle? Um,
Yes,
it's like,
please. I was just about to ask that, Vidya. So yeah, if you can share some pointers
absolutely,
around self-publishing. Yeah, thank you.
definitely, definitely. So, okay, so the process. So you have nowadays what self-publishing, you have these print-on-demand platforms, right? Like the Amazon, uh, the platform for Amazon is KDP, and then you also have Ingram Spark. These are the two most widely used ones. If you're doing just Lulu, if you're doing just ebooks, you have Lulu, Kobo, Smashwords, many. But basically, with the print books, print on demand is that you don't. It's not like you have printed books in your garage or you have an inventory of printed books. What happens is when a person you send a link to the book to people, and when they buy it is when the book gets printed. So Amazon, Ingram Sparks, they have tie-ups with printers all over the world, and the book gets printed there and then sent to you. So as an author, it's very easy that you don't have like 200 boxes of books sitting in your um, at your home. Like in India, though, the first book. So right now, India has a lot of other. I'm sorry, it's not coming to my mind, but Poti Publishing and what is the other one? Poti was there. There was one more. Like they have a lot more print on demand platforms, which I didn't have with the first book. So with the first book, we had to print out 500 copies of the book and then do events and all that to sell it. But with the second one, Blue Rose, thank you, Sri Lakshmi, Blue Rose Publisher. So there are many now who do, but the most widely used are KDP and Amazon in India. Yes, Notion Press. I knew it was something from N and I couldn't remember what it was. We chose for the first book, I chose Kindle. And for the second one, I did both Kindle and Ingram Spark, because Ingram Spark is the biggest distributor for books in the world. So actually, the book distributors, even Amazon uses Ingram Spark to distribute, and all the libraries and all the schools use Ingram Sparks, bookstores, all of them. So if your book is in the catalog of is in the Ingram Spark catalog, schools and libraries and bookstores can order it. So even if bookstores are not ready to display it in their bookstore, people can still buy it through them. And that is a very big plus, because nobody likes, and unfortunately, none of the schools and bookstores like Amazon. So if your book is only selling through Amazon, chances are they are not going to pick it up. Especially, it doesn't make it into the school and the library distribution system. The way libraries and schools order books is they have the system in which I think it's mostly Ingram Sparks. So that is why your book has to feature in their system for them to be able to order it. So even if they like your book and it's not in the system, there's nothing they can do to get the book. And of course, you can choose the list price. I'll talk to you a little more about all of that in the next slide. Omar, please, if you can move on. Okay. So between Kindle and Ingram, um, what are some of the things? So with Kindle, they have extremely they have a very good customer support. So if you're stuck in any part of the process and you just send them a message, they immediately call you back and they guide you through the whole thing. So they're very, very customer friendly. It was extremely easy to upload the book and to get it out on Amazon when we did Kindle the first time. The only disadvantage for me then was because Kindle didn't have, like Amazon didn't have publishers in India. The book would get printed here and then sent to India, and people would have to pay the shipping price. So it didn't make sense. So my first book was not, so for the first book, we had to do Kindle here, and we got it printed with a printer in India so that it is available in both markets. But that's not the case now, because Notion Press, Poti, and all of these, when you self-publish through them, they make your products available on Amazon, Flipkart, and all these places. So it's easier now than it was before. And so my second book is available through Kindle as well as Ingram Sparks. That's why schools can order it, libraries can order it, and all of that. And as I said, Ingram Sparks is the biggest global distributor. The only thing with Ingram Sparks is their customer support takes a little while, and it's not easy to upload and to navigate their system. So that was a little difficult, but they do get back to you, if not immediately, in a couple of days. So for a newbie, I think Kindle is much easier, but the smart decision would be to upload your book on both platforms and make it available to people through both. Anything, but yeah, and another disadvantage with Ingram Sparks is because they're distributors and because bookstores expect a very big discount, at least a 55% discount when they're ordering books, and they want to make it returnable. So when you're doing all those calculations on Ingram as to how much you have to price your book and all that, it becomes a little complicated. You have to account for, so your book maybe on Amazon will cost 12, but when you put it in the Ingram Spark system, you have to price it at 17 or 18, so that you account for the discount that distributors will take, so that bookstores will buy your book. So that is about Ingram and Kindle. And also, I think in India, there is something called an ISBN number for the book. So I bought my own ISBNs for my book, and because when that means, if you don't have your own ISBN, then that means you're giving Kindle all the rights to your book, and I didn't want that. So, but of course, you don't have to buy an ISBN. Kindle will provide it for you. Ingram Sparks will provide it for you if you want. You just have to pay a little additional. But I bought my ISBNs from Bauk. That is the ISBN agency in the US. In India, I'm not sure. I don't remember right now. But that is something I think you'll find. I think Poti and Notion Press also, I found that they have an excellent customer support uh, department. So you can always call up and check it out with them. Next slide, please, Omar. So how do you use, whether it's Kindle or KDP, I'm just going to go through the process of uploading your book. You have to create an account. I bought my ISBN from Bowker, Mary. Let me put that in the chat. That's the agency in the US, the ISBN agency. And I'll talk to you a little more about the ISBN once I finish this, Mary. Yeah, so you create an account, you go to bookshelf, click paperback, create new title, upload your book, add in the description, add in your ISBN. And if you want your book to be available in the Library of Congress, which is of course the biggest library in the US and has almost every book, then you have to have an LOC number, which Kindle will, if you pay $25, they'll get it for you. Next slide shows you exactly how it looks once you open an account. So this is how, once you create an account, this is how it'll look. And you go to bookshelf on top, create new title. Once you create new title, you add in your title. Whether it's ebook or paperback, you click on that, and then upload your manuscript, upload your book cover, write in description, keywords, and all of that, so that when people click on Amazon or anywhere else, they have a little, or if it's Ingram in their catalog, it's a little description that tells them what your book is about and how to find it. And then, of course, the ISBN. And once you do all of that and just say create book, your book is ready. And it takes like a couple of days for them to kind of go back. And even with Ingram, they look at your book, make sure there's no objectionable content and all of that. And they'll come back and say it's ready to publish. And once you just hit that link, it'll say live, which means you're ready to sell your book. So it's as easy as that. Except, of course, I must say it was much easier for me because my friend and my partner in crime knew how to do the book design, knew how to upload the book. But if those are things you're not familiar with, because especially with illustrated books, there has to be a format, and it's not at all easy for somebody who doesn't understand design and all of that to do it yourself. So you will need somebody who's familiar with it and who can upload the files the way the system is asking you to do. Next slide, please. Yeah, and then and then of course you have to also give the paperback details, content, all the rights, and fill in all these things. See language, book title, whether it's a series, edition number, all of that. And both Kindle as well as Amazon, as well as Ingram Sparks, they have blogs, they have groups, they have forums that answer all your questions for you too, apart from the customer service. So you just go there, look at all of them, learn through all of that. And there are plenty of YouTube videos also now that tell you how to go about this process and what are some of the problems you might face and how you can change and do stuff. Umar, next slide. Okay. Now this is important, very important in self-publishing. How do you decide the pricing of your book, right? So all of these self-publishing platforms, including the ones in India, they have something called a pricing calculator. Okay. And you can play around with that. Like if you can say, and what you need to know is how much the company takes for distributing your book. So Amazon, if you're doing a standard distribution in which it will only be available in through Amazon in certain markets. Okay, so then you get 60% and Amazon will get 40%. So the way the it's calculated is the royalty rate, that is 0.6. Suppose I list my book for $15 into 15 minus the printing cost. So Amazon will, when you're putting your book up there, it'll ask you how many pages, what paper you want, whether it's black and white, whether it's full color. When you put in all of that, it'll tell you how much it'll cost to print your book. Okay, and then you add that to this, and then that you calculate the royalty. But if you choose Kindle's expanded distribution, where they have complete distribution rights, which means you cannot put it on Ingram, you cannot put it on any other site, they will only they can do that, then they get 60% and you get 40%, and then your royalty automatically decreases. So that's another reason to have the rights to yourself. So have your own ISBN, have your own use standard distribution on Amazon. The printing cost, of course, will vary on the pages, whether it's black, colored, ink, the size of your book. And so you decide the pricing with the pricing calculator, you decide all those things and then figure out how much is a good amount that you think. And of course you have to, like, you cannot say that, oh yeah, I want at least $10, I've put in so much effort. But then if your book is priced at 25 and books in the market for a similar book your size and your kind of book is selling at 10 or 15, then chances are fewer people are going to buy it. So it also has to be competitive. And all of these platforms also give you author copies, so that when I go to events and all of that, I take my own author copies. So for author copies, I don't have to spend like $12 or 15. It's only the printing cost of the book plus shipping. So so that is one good thing that they do. So I also have author copies every time, and those are the copies I take when I go into schools, when I go in for author events and all of that. And yes, on Ingram, you have to account. It's not as straightforward as this. You have to account for, the 50 or 55% discount that you have to give to retailers. So there's a chain. There is the author, then there is the printer, then there is the distributor, and there is the retailer. So your book has to go through various channels. So at the end of it, guys, what you get in royalty is really not too much. Because even though your book is priced at 15 or 16, by the time you account for all these discounts and everybody's cut, what you get is like at the most $2 per book, 2 or 3. At least with my book, because it's not even priced at 15. It's a paperback children's book. So, 12 is the max I can price it at. Umar, next slide, please. Okay, yeah, then yeah, that's I think that's all I had about that part. But Ram, did you have that question about self-publishing? Because I can't see everybody on my screen. It was just
Yes,
through the
yes,
voice. Yes, Ram.
yes,
So
Vidya. Thank you so much. It really helped because
is
I
there
went through this
anything?
process once.
Mhm.
I went through this process once about 7, 8 years ago, right? So
Yeah,
it was very nice to hear from you because the cover design and things like that suddenly hit me out of the blue, right? So it comes in the last
yeah,
part when you try to upload it, right?
yeah.
And so some of those things were totally had taken me off guard. But very nice of you to put these screenshots, show exactly how it is, right? So I really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much. You answered my
Thank you,
question.
Ram. Thank you, thank you. That's all I needed to know whether I answered. But thank you for coming, and I'm glad it helped. Yeah. So if you guys really, if you want to do self-publishing, I think while you're writing your book, also, make sure that you have somebody who can design your book for you. If you need illustrations, illustrate it for you, because you will need a team. It's very difficult to go through the entire process on your own, um, unless you're tech savvy and you don't have illustrations. If it's just an adult book without, but you will still need somebody to do the cover design and all of that. And Ingram and Amazon both have people, like you can have them, you pay extra, and they'll find people to do the cover design for you. So they do have resources. You just have to play around with all of that once you make your account. And if anybody needs illustrators, I have another friend on the call. If she's still there, she's an excellent illustrator. You can reach out to me and I can give her
Um,
number. That's
I think there's
Anisha, I'm
one.
not sure whether she's still there. No, she's not there. But yeah, go
Um,
ahead.
there's one question. I'd like to know how to approach schools, and I think that will have to be the last one because we are at time now.
Okay. How to approach schools? You have to talk to the media specialists in the schools. You have to send them a letter. What I did initially, because I was not getting responses from media specialists, is I asked friends whose kids were in the school to take a copy of the book, show it to the teacher, and then the teacher would invite me. Because, the school system, they're so careful nowadays, they have to vet you before you enter the school. So it's not always easy like that way. If you're traditionally published, you can go in through the Scholastic Book Fair, your books will be available. But if you're self-published, you do need to try different, like teachers, parents, but mostly media specialists, um, librarians in the school, they'll connect with you. And the only way to do that is, I guess, to surf on the net. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Vidya. Thank you everyone for joining us today. This presentation was amazing. I hadn't considered how in-depth publishing was, all these things you have to take in mind, marketing, finding your publishers, and just like finding new ways to engage with the community, as you mentioned, like with schools, hosting all these author events, to promote the book or either signing up for fairs. I think this is so rich. I'm going to share this video with everyone once it's been loaded to our YouTube, and also going to include some of these resources included in this presentation. I just want to say a big thank you to Sarabi for getting this all together, and a huge thank you to our guest author today. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Umar. And one more thing, guys, when I saw this, there is a software called Pressbooks through the library. And if you upload your manuscript on Pressbooks, which is very simple, Pressbooks will make it, it will format it so that you can upload it on other platforms like Amazon and Ingram and all of that. So,
But I
yeah.
think Omar is Pressbook's only part of our library. I would like to think so. I don't know if.
Yes, please check with your library resources.
Yes,
I know for the
yes.
Charlotte Mecklenburg Library,
Right.
we give all of our members access to this platform.
Yep. May not, I'm not sure all public libraries in the States have that, but I know Charlotte does. Thank you, everyone. We will not be meeting next month, but we'll have one more session in the fall. So I'll keep you posted about that. And thank you, Vidya, so much. Thank you.